All right, let's get right to him. We got him. Head coach, Texas Longhorns, coming straight out of a meeting. Big game this weekend, spring football. Steve Sarkisian join us now. Sark, what's going on, Coach? How we doing?
I'm great, man. How y'all doing?
Oh, we are phenomenal. We appreciate the time. I know you're absolutely slammed with everything that's going on, so we appreciate the time so much. Spring game this weekend. You guys we were just going down the roster. You guys lost a lot to the NFL. So much talent, but you bring in some incredibly talented players as well. What are you looking forward to from the game this weekend?
Yeah, what's been fun about this spring, is the amount of depth that we have on our roster. We've been able to really, two-spot everything. So we've had 1s and 2s, 3s and 4s. Everybody's getting a ton of reps. And so what I'm looking forward to Saturday is everybody getting an opportunity to play. We want to tackle. We take a lot of pride in being a physical football team and being tough. I think tough still matters in football. And so, we'll monitor some guys there and maybe have a few guys get a couple series and get them out. But I want to see our guys play and have fun playing and enjoy a nice spring football game.
Coach, great to chat with you. I was a little bummed whenever I got when they released where we're all going for spring games, and I went ahead to Austin. I'm like, they gave me 4 games last year. You'd at least think I would be able to get the spring game. I don't know if you pushed away from that or not, but it's great to catch up with you this morning. What are
you were like our honorary weekly. We barely had to do our production meetings. Like you knew our team better than I did half the time.
It was awesome, and what a run you guys went on last year. And obviously, Quinn Ewers was a huge part of that, and whenever he was banged up, Malik Murphy stepped in and did a nice job for you. Malik Murphy obviously gone to Duke, and Arch Manning. And the last game I did for you against Texas Tech, maybe the loudest ovation I heard all season there in Austin was when he came in the game and mop-up duty. The fan base went electric. I'm sure everybody wondering, how's that quarterback room look this spring? Has Quinn Ewers taken that next step? And what has Art shown you here so far throughout spring practice?
Well, I think, last Saturday we had a pretty extensive scrimmage, about 130 play scrimmage, and I thought Quinn really played lights out. And we've got a ton of new faces in that receiver room and in the tight end room. So it's been a little bit of a work in progress of getting that rapport right. Guys are working hard, and we're trying to get all that done. But I thought Quinn played at a really high level. And then, as you know, we're extremely fortunate to have Arch with us too. Very rarely in this day and age do you just stroll through a season with one quarterback. And the fact that we've got a guy there in Arch that we've got a lot of faith in can go in and play the game at a high level. But has also continued to work at his craft. And, I think, him being here for a couple of years with Quinn, hopefully when his time comes, he's ready to play at an elite level as well. So we're fortunate, and I don't take that, for granted. There's a lot of other schools out there with one guy, and what happens if something happens to him. So, again, we're in a good spot, and those guys are working hard, doing a great job. And I think their rapport together, the way they work together and push each other and make each other better, the relationship they have has been very healthy as well.
It's great to hear. That quarterback room is a special, sacred place. It's not like a defensive tackle room where Dusty was in there, just goofing around when he was back playing. It's a sacred place. Those relationships, we got to keep those close.
Don't start. Okay, he may have been a quarterback, but he appreciates us D linemen, right, Coach? I mean, don't let Danny get on me too bad.
Hey, when you got good D linemen, the game's a little easier. I can tell you that.
It absolutely is. You guys lost 2 interior defensive linemen, Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, both incredible producers for you guys. That's a position that you guys are, trying to replace, and it's hard to do, especially, that position they're not guys that size sitting on every street corner. How is the young talent coming up on the defensive line, specifically that interior looking?
Well, it's been great. A guy that we're excited decided to come back to school this year has been Alfred Collins, and he definitely hasn't disappointed. He's had a great spring so far. Very versatile player. Can play base end, quite frankly. Can play a 3 technique, can even slide down and play over the center some. So his versatility, I think, has helped us because of the using to the playing to the strengths of some of those younger players. which we're learning. And we've got a new defensive line coach, Kenny Baker, who came to us from the Miami Dolphins. And I think one of the beauties for us kind of systematically is that, you know, we've got to figure out the strengths of our team, and then we have to figure out the strengths of the individual players, and then we have to formulate schemes week in and week out to play to those strengths. And so I don't know if we're just going to have a Tavondre Sweat who can sit in there in two gap, and I don't know if we're going to have as great of a penetrator as Byron Murphy was. But I do think we're a very athletic group with size. Are we going to have to angle and slant maybe a little bit more? Are we going to have to play maybe a little bit more single high and not so much split safety to make sure that we're gapped out? Those are all things that time will tell. But it is a talented room, and those guys are working hard right now.
Talking with Texas head football coach Steve Sarkisian, getting ready for the spring game coming up this Saturday at DKR there in Austin. Anthony Hill Jr., since we're on defense, I'm going to stick here. He was one of the best freshman defensive players in the country last year. He got better and better throughout the course of the season. I'm intrigued where he is now with that season under his belt, an entire winter conditioning, and now spring football. What have you seen from Anthony Hill Jr., and what's maybe a ceiling for him this season as a player, as a sophomore?
I think one thing I'm seeing is the leadership in him. You know, a guy who's in year two, but he has got that natural leadership ability, and that's because of who he is off the field. You know, as good as he is on the field, who he is off the field, I think, is indicative of what a Longhorn should be. And so it's easy for his voice to resonate with people. But the playmaking ability, you know, that was a guy a year ago really was playing three positions for us. He knew, you know, Mike Backer because he was kind of backing up Jalen Ford. He had to play Will, and then we played him off the edge in some obvious passing downs, third downs in 2 minutes. So getting him really settled back in to the Mike position, I think has allowed him to dig into the nuances of the position and gain more confidence in the little things, the fundamentals, the techniques, those types of things. And so it's been a very good spring for him. It's been very productive. But like I said, I think it's been helpful from a defensive perspective to kind of have one of those alphas over there that's leading the charge.
Coach, we got the NFL draft coming up just over a week away, next Thursday night. You guys are going to have a slew of players from your Longhorn team from last year getting drafted. Who are you excited to see what they do at the next level? And maybe somebody under the radar. I don't know, or maybe it's somebody that you just like you've got to kind of watched and developed. Just like kind of take me through what your plans are for the NFL draft and kind of who you're expecting to see go and flourish at the next level.
You know, I like this whole group. I'll be honest with you. I'm really proud of all of them because I've seen the strides of all these guys, from Byron Murphy, a three-star kid that nobody, you know, was really talking a whole lot about, that now is projected to go in the first round. I love the perseverance that Xavier showed coming out of year two and what he was able to do in year three. The development of A.D. Mitchell when he came on board. I think J.T. Sanders is still just scratching the surface. You know, as you guys know, I love Jordan Whittington. Dusty, you know that as much as anybody. I mean, what he meant to our team from a toughness standpoint, what he might be able to do. You know, and again, I'm leaving out Tavondre Sweat, Jalen Ford, Ryan Watts, Keelan Robinson, some really good players. And so the other guy I'm really proud of, Christian Jones, the guy who I've watched develop over 3 years, that I think is, you know, has got a pretty good chance to be a second-day pick. So I love the development of our players, and I'm proud of those guys. You know, you got to think back in year one. After year one here, we didn't have one player drafted from the University of Texas, which is incredible to me. Year two, we had 5, you know, with Bijan going in the first round and Roshan and that group. And so now coming out of year 3 to have 11 players at the NFL Combine and a chance to get all those guys drafted, I think is, you know, I'm proud of our staff because I think that's indicative of the players, one, we're recruiting now, but two, the development of the players in our program. And now we're reaping the benefits of that. We're a better football team in season. As a result, we're getting more players with an opportunity to fulfill their dreams of getting drafted in the NFL. There's
no doubt about that. Tons of talent, and the development piece is so massive. Christian Jones, a great example of that. He was a good college player. He was excellent for you last season. I will be intrigued with what this week or next weekend holds for him. Kind of with that then, Coach, just stay the program. You're 3 years in. And every year you guys have gotten better and better. You win the Big 12 last year, and you make the playoff run. Now you're going into this next season, reloading that roster, heading to the SEC. When you took this job, is this kind of what you envisioned, the track that you guys have been on? Was that your expectation when you took over this massive opportunity?
Well, I think the first part is you have to understand when you take the job at the University of Texas, what you're signing up for. And everyone talks about expectations here, but the reality is we had those same expectations or we wouldn't have taken the job, right? I didn't want to be a head coach again just to wear the hat. We're trying to win championships. We're chasing it every day. I think that the trajectory that we're on is a very good one. Obviously, this year poses new and different challenges like every year does. But one of the challenges, as always, is as we've recruited this talented roster, which I do think we're very talented, we have to remember at our core what has made us unique and special. And A, you talked about the development of our players on and off the field, and B, our culture. And so as much as, we love the talent we have, we're still grinding away at our culture to make sure that we play really well as a team and not take the field as individuals, which you see, throughout the years, teams fall prey and fall into that trap. And so if we can do that, and if we can, knock on wood, stay healthy at some key positions, I think we got a chance to do something special. But the expectations haven't changed. We went into last season trying to win a national championship and win a conference championship. We were able to win the conference and get into the playoff. This year's no different. We want to compete for an SEC championship and get into the college football playoff with an opportunity to try to win a national championship.
Coach, we were talking earlier, Dustin and I, about the portal being open, the spring portal window, how it could be very stressful for coaches, not knowing, people trying to poach your roster. I'd imagine it's a little different at Texas. Like, you guys are Texas. You guys have been able to pretty much keep your squad together. But what is this next 2 weeks like? Is it stressful? Is it an opportunity for you guys to go looking for more players? Just what's it like for you in this new era with the spring portal window?
Yeah, it is unique. I think that you have to have the ability to adapt. And college football has changed dramatically over the last 3 years. And this is just another example of it. And so I think, being adaptable, understanding that, yes, you're going to have some players that are going to be getting talked to behind the scenes and that are going to, maybe get enticed to maybe go to other schools. And the reality is hopefully that they see the development within our program. They see the culture that we have and how they're getting treated. On the flip side, we're not a huge portal recruiting team, but what we have tried to do over the last couple of years is almost use it a little bit like NFL free agency, where if you've got an immediate need on your roster and for a variety of reasons, it could be players that left early to go to the draft. It could be maybe career-ending injuries or injuries mounted. Maybe we didn't recruit the position very well, whatever that is, and you've got that gap. We've been trying to use the portal to kind of, fill those gaps. And, like I said, I think we do have a talented roster. Could we get into this portal thing here, depending on the quality of the players, and see if there's a guy or two that can kind of bolster a position group for us to make us a little bit more solid.
All right, Coach, last one for me, and excited about your spring game coming up this weekend. Again, DKR on Saturday for this year's spring game for Texas. But the draft is next week. Danny asked you about that. One guy I'm not sure you touched on, one of my favorites, Jonathan Brooks. I've seen him slated 56 to my Cowboys. I grew up in Dallas. I'm a big Cowboys fan. We'd love to have a guy like Jonathan Brooks. Maybe touch on him if you would, Coach. I know from a culture standpoint, from a toughness standpoint, I was doing the game when he got hurt against TCU. I was crushed for you guys. But for him to bounce back, and most people think he might be the top running back off the board, that speaks to a lot about what you've been talking about with the buy-in, the development, and everything going on there in Texas.
Hey, I love this guy. And Jonathan is a great example of the grass isn't always greener, somewhere else. The first 2 years in our program, he was at best our third-string running back. We had Bijan Robinson, we had Roschon Johnson, we had Keelan Robinson. But every time Jonathan went in, he made plays for us his first 2 years. We signed a really good class, and that class coming in. And at the start of last season, really is the backup to C.J. Baxter, who is a true freshman. And C.J. nicks his foot up in the Alabama game in week 2, and Jonathan took over and never looked back. And so I think there's a lot of value in perseverance. And I think that's something that as a coaching staff, we really try to instill in our players. And I think it's sometimes in our society, we lose sight of the value of perseverance. And I think with the transfer portal, sometimes we lose sight of perseverance. But this guy is a prime example of that, all the way through to, tearing his ACL against TCU and went right back to work, didn't blink, had a really clean surgery, and now, as you touched on, is probably going to be the top running back off the board, and couldn't be more excited and happy for he and his family. Everything he's getting right now, he's earned.